Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchising. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Ion Franchising. I have another special guest for you today. Now, normally when I do introductions, I sort of memorize my franchise friends and what their backgrounds are. Today is a lot more scientific, which means it's certainly challenging for me. So what I'm going to be doing is looking down at my notes here as I introduce my next exciting guest. So she's fascinated with neuroscience and human performance as it relates to business success. We're all about business success here. And she is the CEO and chief scientist of Zorakle Profiles, which I use. If you ever did my free assessment, she did it. She created it. She's the inventor. And she's been in franchise consulting and she's been in the franchise consulting business and the psychometric assessment business since 1993. And she is, in fact, the inventor of the meta-analysis methodology used in the Zorakle spot-on profiles and the spot-on eclipse reports. Okay, that's a mouthful. Now, without further ado, my friend, Rebecca Monet. Rebecca, welcome.
Hey, Lance. I'm so excited to be here and having this conversation with you.
Well, this is going to be exciting. You know, I talked to franchise founders. I just talked to my first few franchisees. I have a franchise finance person or 2 or 10 that'll be coming on the show. But this is amazing because I have been on 65 or so podcasts so far, and your assessment is on my homepage, and it's really something that I mention every single time I'm on a podcast, and I've had tons of people do it, and I tell people, go to my free assessment. It's on my website, ionfranchising.com, and it's going to help me understand your mindset, skill set, life experiences, so I can really understand what kind of franchise is great for you. And obviously everybody's different. So we're going to dive into all of that in the next 30, 45 minutes or so. So tell us about you. Let's go with your backstory here. How did Rebecca become Rebecca and founder of this brand and in fact a scientist? Did you get a stethoscope really early in life or a test tube thing? I don't know anything. My brother's a doctor. I don't know anything about this.
So actually, I have been endlessly curious about human behavior as long as I can remember. But I think it started when I first moved to the US from Switzerland. And I noticed people in America were very different than what I experienced in Switzerland. So, you know, when you see people that are like yourself and think like you just don't think anything could be different. And all of a sudden I'm in a completely different world here in the US and wondering how these people are making these decisions and acting in what I consider kind of bizarre ways. So I think that's what kind of spurned it. It was like, how is it this person came to this conclusion when I would come to this conclusion, as would everybody I know, at least from my past? What was it that caused them to be different? So I think the curiosity has always been there, but was really highlighted when I first came to the US. And I saw others my age acting in very different ways than I would act. I don't know if you've ever encountered that, but it's definitely an odd feeling.
Absolutely. I mean, and in some cases, I mean, look, it's like with kids. I just was with family over the weekend, and I haven't seen my niece in years, and she is wise beyond her years, and we know, and other kids seem so immature. And in the world of business, especially in this application, it's amazing how people are just so different, and it always starts with mindset. You know, people sometimes are scared out of their minds, and other people are ready to go, but that could also be hazardous or dangerous if they're not, doing the right thing.
Yeah. It is interesting because I went on to become a therapist, and my clients, Lance, were all business owners, entrepreneurs. Today we wouldn't call me a therapist. We would call me a coach, right? That's kind of the new hip term.
Right.
But back then in the late 80s, early 90s, I would have been considered a therapist. And these entrepreneurs and these business owners would come to me and say, what is preventing me from being as successful as I know I can be? What's going on between, in that gray matter between my ears that is preventing me from taking that next step or making this next decision or growing the business the way they want? And so, like you said, a lot of it really is mindset and what's going on, what our values are, how we're driven, the strategies that we use, the belief systems that are congruent or inconsistent with what we want. And when we better understand that, then we can line that up with our aspirations, our goals, and the dreams that we have for the future. And every entrepreneur was different. Every business owner was different. And the thing that triggered them or caused them to go to success was different. We are unique in who we are as business owners.
Yeah, I love it. You just reminded me when you said belief systems. I had an old mentor, much wiser than me, say belief systems is the reason that our belief systems, it's BS, belief systems. Because in a lot of cases, we have a lot of BS between our ears that we've learned, or somehow it's hitched on. It's like barnacles on a ship that have been added onto our bodies or our brains that prevent us from doing, something good for ourselves in most cases, or taking risks, right?
And most of them are unconscious. Most of our belief systems are unconscious, and they hold us where we are. The whole focus of a belief system is to protect our identity, to protect the way that we view ourselves. So we have these belief systems that have been created that says we are whatever. And many of them are based on false information or a traumatic experience that may have happened where we're in a heightened emotional state and we make a crazy decision based on that. And it turns into, neurologically, it turns into a belief system. And here we are living out a belief system that started at age 8 and we're 38 and we're wondering why our lives aren't working.
38, that would be nice if I can go back that far.
Oh, me too.
So you brought up something. I mean, I'm going to say this all day now. You brought up something important. Everything you're saying is perfect. When I talk a lot about nature versus nurture with entrepreneurs, I had both of my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. So there was probably little chance I was going to end up working for somebody anytime, on a long-term basis, because I saw what both grandfathers did as entrepreneurs, and they were both very successful. So naturally, that's what I did. So that is, sort of the natural path that I took based on what I learned. You just mentioned something really very, very important on what sort of the environmental things, if you will, that people experience or things that happen to them. So that's again where the nature versus nurture argument comes in. But
yeah.
Speak to that a little bit more, and then dive into how that assessment of yours was created and how that helps people understand who they are better.
So this nature versus nurture argument has been going on for centuries, as you know. Yeah. And it's also where a lot of psychographics come in. Are we born a particular way? Did the stars line up? Did God create us in a particular way?
And boy, that's everything these days. What is your sexual orientation? What is this? What is it? But we're staying in our lane today, talking about business success, of course.
Darn, I like the other lanes too.
I took the fun right out of it.
You did.
Making money is fun. Come on.
It is fun. I kind of like it myself. Yes. So the born a particular way idea, there's some truth to that, that if we are born, in a particular part of the world that we, or we're born of a certain generation, or we're born a certain gender, or our height and our color eyes and our muscular structure, there's no doubt that nature part of it does to some extent create our personality. How much is quite debatable. There's all kinds of research, honestly, even on the shape of someone's muscles and how that affects us neurologically and how that affects our thinking processes, not just how we move. Some of us more graceful, some of us more kind of thing. But it does to some extent affect us neurologically. And anytime we're affecting the neurology, we're affecting our thinking process, including our beliefs, et cetera. But I truly believe the nurture part of it has a whole lot more to do with someone's ultimately being successful in business. The example you gave of yourself, I think, is classic. You watched it in your family for many generations, entrepreneur after entrepreneur doing what was necessary to grow a business. You observed it. Did that end up on your DNA? We can argue about that, but what we do know is you were impressionable and you observed how your parents and your grandparents and others grew their business through hard work, through tough decisions, through commitment, whatever it is, you observe that. So
I observed that they're in the house an awful lot during the day.
I mean, yeah, can't get away with anything then, huh?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. But when the nature argument, I think, is slowly beginning to die, where the nurture argument is getting stronger and stronger, especially the more we learn about the brain and we learn about belief systems and neurology, that there is a strong effect of the environment we're raised in and the beliefs that we adopt by observation or by experience.
Right. So what traits, let's just jump right to it. For the folks listening, if somebody's looking at a business opportunity, a franchise or otherwise, I mean, look, we have all kinds, I have 700 plus opportunities and not just franchises. And, what are the traits? What is your assessment helping with? I know it helps me with, but what are the traits of a successful or the attributes for traits, you tell me, of a successful franchisee?
So I believe that it depends on the franchise system, that what is required of an individual to be successful in a fast casual food concept is going to be different than if I'm running a automotive concept or an elder care concept or a child care facility. So I think it's about fit, what that franchisor brings to the table, the value package, and then as well as their skills, and then what the franchisee is bringing to the table. So to me, it's first and foremost always about fit. Does this individual fit within a particular franchise organization? The example that we talked about kind of offline was the shoe example, right? So if I wear a size whatever, a 9, and the business is a size 12, and I choose to take that business on, it's not that shoe, I can't walk in it, but I sure as heck am not going to be able to run in it. I'm not going to be as successful if that shoe is not the right fit. So it's always about, do I fit within that franchise organization's culture? Do I fit where they are in terms of their evolution and their stage of growth? Do I fit in terms of my values being the same as that franchisor? And then to a very, very small amount, is my personality consistent with what it's required to be in that business? It's then and only then that we can say, okay, now we got a good size shoe, right? We got the right business. Then we can look at some of the attributes and the skills of that individual. And I have some strong beliefs about attributes that are kind of consistent for a franchisee to be successful. And one of my favorite, Lance, is this idea of delayed gratification. I see again and again that if a entrepreneur, a franchisee, a business owner does not have the ability psychologically, financially, whatever, to delay gratification, they will not be successful. You're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you need to be able to stay the course, have that grit, have that commitment, have that follow through, knowing your results may be 18 months, 24 months, 3 years, 10 years down the road. And it's that ability to delay gratification. And of course, I have all kinds of beliefs about that and how that's an issue many of us have today when the world is all about instant gratification.
Well, look, franchising, it's about sort of simple math. You buy a franchise for $150,000, get your SBA loan. There's a runway, there's a ramp up period. Is it 6 to 8 months you make your money back? Is it longer? And at some point, as you build cash flow, all businesses, especially franchises, are worth a multiple of their cash flow. Right. So to your exact point, the longer you have it, just like the stock market, just like the value of real estate, assets grow and appreciate. So you have to have patience in order to grow a business effectively in the first place. But, you mentioned, again, some amazing points that I live with every day as I review the Zorakle profiles and assessments to understand people better. I do ask additional questions and sort of redirect. I feel like an attorney sometimes, like I play one on TV, and sort of redirect a lot of things in the profile to ask some deeper questions like, tell me more about this. Tell me more about, you mentioned culture, for example, because at the end of the day, we did talk about the shoe example because I love silly analogies, but you go to a shoe store and you're going to see shoes that are $19.99 all the way up to $300. Although my wife, I think, found shoes even more expensive than that. But so the question is, what fits? What's comfortable? What, looks right? What, because there are people that call me all the time and say, oh, I want a restaurant. Why? I don't know. I heard that's a good investment. And then they end up buying a restoration brand because, investing in a restoration brand because it's better for them, because I've redirected to give them something that is going to give them the income they really need, or far beyond the income that they ever even expected, for a much lower investment. So I love this. I mean, I can talk about this all day. So keep going. Give me more. So let's flip this a little bit and let's talk about the franchisor. You work with a lot of franchisors because, and I knew this being a franchisee many times, that the franchisors would hand me this profile. It was never as good as yours. I don't know what they were using in those days, but the goal, of course, was to benchmark me and say, okay, Lance is a successful franchisee. What's in his head or in his heart or somewhere else? Why is he successful? And if he's successful, how do we find more people like him to be a franchisee? So tell me about that part of your life doing this.
So it's one of my favorite things to do, to truly be able to quantify, to delineate exactly why certain franchisees within certain franchise organizations are knocking it out of the park, right? So I bring it down to the 4 tenets of franchising. First and foremost, is it a replicable model? Will it play in Peoria? Will it play in Dallas? Most franchisors have done a brilliant job creating systems and processes and making sure it's replicable. Secondly, is it a viable market? Are there enough individuals, businesses, consumers that need this product or service? Again, franchisors do a brilliant job doing some modeling to make sure there's enough business for that franchisee to be successful. And then the third, if it's a location-based business, they're doing modeling and they're taking a look at, is it the right corner? Does it need to be in a strip center? Is it a business that can be run from home? What zip codes is the best place for that franchise organization? And then Zorakle looks at the human element. It's like, is it the right franchisee? Is this the right franchisee in the right business model, in the right market, on the right corner? Because you can have the perfect model, the perfect, marketplace, and have the wrong franchisee that's just not a good fit for that organization. Doesn't mean he or she can't do a different business, but they're not a good fit for that organization. So that's what Zorakle does, is we look deeply at the psychographic, hundreds of markers of what about these successful franchisees is different than our average performers or low performers. What do they have in common? But also, how are they different? And how can we screen a prospective franchisee so they look like the high performers, so they can have the highest likelihood of feeling comfortable in that organization, a good fit, right? And that they have what it takes to be successful within that business.
Yeah, one of the obvious categories, I say obvious because it's something that I pay attention to all the time, is when I have somebody that does the assessment and we have our first conversation, on a rare occasion, typically they know, but on a rare occasion, they say, oh, I want something, with sales focused. I heard I can make a lot of money. And then I look down at the assessment. I'm like, whoa, you have like no sales ability.
Yeah.
And according to this, you don't even like sales.
Right.
So I don't know that that's really a good fit. I had to tell somebody that not too long ago, very recently. And he's like, all right, what else do you have? And I was like, oh, that was easy. But look, that's my job as their advocate, their coach, to their strategist, if you will, to help them with that. So, what you do, geez, you've been doing this how many years now with this assessment specifically?
Yeah, well, in the franchise space since 1993. That's a long time. What's that? 28, 29 years. Yeah.
How has technology, the one thing I've noticed, I mean, obviously technology has helped you a lot because you could sort of run this algorithm. I mean, that's really what it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a different algorithm for each franchise system. And of course, when a franchisee is looking at a business, letting us know which businesses are good for them. But yeah, the technology, the sciences have changed. When I first started, I was doing just a values-based assessment, right? Stanford research work called VALS. And I was doing a little bit of work around neurolinguistics, so looking at meta programs. And then as I learned more, we started to take a look at culture, and we started to take a look at an aptitude test to take a look at skills. And science keeps evolving, technology keeps evolving. Today, we're looking at emotional and social intelligence. We're looking at somebody's ability to concentrate and focus. So we're looking at markers that we haven't had an opportunity to look at. We had no way of measuring, 15, 20, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, shoot, a franchise consultant would fax an assessment to someone. Someone would fill it out. They would fax it back to you. You would hand score it by putting a transparency over it, which would tell you what the answers kind of meant. And then you would spend some time with that prospective franchisee, that future business owner.
Yeah.
Today, it's also a software, right?
Absolutely. So let me ask one of my favorite questions. Can anyone be successful in business?
I think so. I believe anyone can be successful in business, but the key is fit, which is why what you offer, Lance, is invaluable. I mean, if a person didn't have you coming alongside, they would pick, here's a business, I like animals, and they go into an animal business or whatever. So it's all about the right business for that individual that is a good fit and leverages that individual's hard skills as well as soft skills. So it's a kind of a combination of compatibility plus competency. But yes, I believe anyone can be successful in the right business.
Great. Now, I think I know the answer to this based on your previous answers, but again, it's talked about a lot on my podcast. If somebody has no experience in blank, can they be successful? And I typically say, well, that's why franchising was built. The idea is that you have systems and you have procedures and you have mentors and training and marketing to do all this. So in your world, your goal, of course, goes back to fit. And I know that's what the assessment does. I mean, tell me more about how you have determined and how did you go about testing this to know it works?
So you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter if you have a sales background, you've been a director of marketing, you're a neurosurgeon, you can go into.
I had an anesthesiologist recently.
Did you?
Yes.
And what did he choose?
Well, that's a whole mindset thing. He was always very successful, but his wife always told him he couldn't be his own boss. He had worked for hospitals all his years. So he came through a hot referral through a friend of mine, and he's still debating. But again, mindset. He wants to do it, but he doesn't necessarily have the support behind him. As silly as that sounds.
And that brings up a whole nother topic. I call it emotional, social, relational, and financial risk factors. So not only does he have a belief system that was embedded in him by someone he loves, someone he appreciates to her feedback, and somehow he's taken it on as a belief system that's accurate. It may not be accurate, but he's believing it to be, right? It could be based on one person's opinion, not a professional in this case. And so we get a belief system that's incongruent, inconsistent, and we have emotional, social, relational, and financial risk factors at stake here. The relationship risk, am I going to risk what my wife believes about me? Am I willing to test that and jeopardize that relationship to go into business? So he's fighting on two fronts. He's fighting a belief system that may not be accurate. And then he also has a relationship factor that he wants to make sure he can protect. And if those two things can be protected, then he likely will go into business. So it is mindset. It is overcoming these limiting beliefs that we have, and also looking at the risk, saying, is it worth it to jeopardize my relationship with someone and possibly prove her wrong or prove him wrong? Right? We don't always do that because that kind of hurts our relationships.
Yeah. And look, I'm a trainer for a large franchise organization, the largest, FranServe, as you probably know. Mm-hmm. And with FranServe, when I'm training new consultants, I always sort of warn them, it's always better to be prepared, like good Boy Scout, Girl Scout. And that after you have a first conversation with somebody, even though they're really excited, what's the first thing they do when they get off the phone with you?
Oh yeah, they're talking to others, like
everyone. They're telling their
friends or spouses, yeah, and then they're giving opinions that may not be based on fact, right?
No, and you know what comes out, right? What are you, nuts?
What are you thinking?
You don't have any money. You don't have any experience. You've never been your own boss. We just had a kid.
They're trying to protect us, right? They're doing it out of love is what they're doing. They're trying to protect us. On the assessment, we actually have something called internal versus external, where some of us process information and know when something is right for us through an external mode by asking our friends, talking to an attorney, talking to a CPA, seeing spreadsheets, but it's an external way. And some of us are internal. We know by just a gut feel. We know it's right based on some other markers we have inside our hearts and in our heads. But if someone's an external sorter, is what I call them, like what you're talking about here, if they're talking to someone that they love and they respect, like a spouse or a father-in-law or CPA or whatever, and that person says, I don't think this is a good idea, even if they have zero clue about business, zero clue about franchising, oftentimes we will put more weight in their opinion than we will in what we know inside is right for us, or the opinion of an advisor who's been doing this and has had great success at it. And it's an unfortunate, it's an unfortunate thing, but I see it frequently.
It happens all too often. And I hate when people have their dreams derailed, because I could recognize people. Of course, I've been doing this a long time. I've owned a lot of brands myself. I know when people can do it. I just helped a young couple, and another young gentleman that was just 28. He was ready. This guy was chomping at the bit, ready to go. And, gotta let people run with their dreams here,
Right. Right.
Let's talk about comfort zone. When I see the assessment, I had a gentleman not too long ago under comfort zone. It said large.
Oh.
Big comfort zone.
So the key with the comfort zone is the bigger the comfort zone, the longer it takes for us to change our lives. The comfort zone affects every area of our lives, from how much weight we allow ourselves to get overweight, right? For some of us, it's 5 pounds. For some of us, it's 100 pounds. That's a comfort zone. Comfort zone also affects the amount of work we're willing to do. Some of us, it's 20 hours a week. Others, it's 80, or in others, it's just whatever it takes to get the job done. And there's a comfort zone around financial. Some of us very capable psychologically of risk, others not so capable of risk. So the comfort zone affects every area of our lives. But I can tell you, the larger the comfort zone, the harder it is for us to feel pleasure or for us to feel pain. And without pain moving us in a particular direction, or pleasure, basically beckoning us to come that direction, if we can't feel pleasure and we can't feel pain because we're in a comfort zone, we're not likely going to change our lives, including buying a business, which is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
I had a gentleman, the opposite, that had a very, very small comfort zone. He had been a corporate executive, what we like to call corporate refugees. Mm-hmm. Even though he hadn't left his corporate job, he was already on that island preparing to set sail to a new destination. And he told me, he goes, I know within 5 years I'm not going to have a job anymore. That everything's being shipped overseas, and I've been doing this a long time. And he had great skills, and I found him a franchise very quickly. And this was several years ago, and I still check in with him, and he refers me quite a few people, and he's very happy on his own. Very, very happy.
Yay, and good decision.
We know, just like you do by now, it becomes pretty easy to identify who's really ready and really who should be ready, but they're still panicked and having all kinds of internal, as you say, external issues. And we can't go through every facet of this wonderful assessment. You can certainly go to my website and try it out for free at ionfranchising.com. I did want to ask Rebecca, before as we get towards the end of this right now, but what advice, a lot of first-time entrepreneurs, I work with first-time entrepreneurs, as you have, as well as serial entrepreneurs. The serial entrepreneurs at least have filtered through what they think they want. Doesn't mean they know what they want, but they've had certainly a fair amount of experiences. But what advice really for first-time entrepreneurs, in summary, that you can give? Because we don't want anybody to give up on their dreams. That's for sure. No,
we definitely do. So it's interesting. As I pointed out, I truly do believe all of us can be business owners. But I think the thing that motivates the serial entrepreneur, the guy or gal to take that risk, is they see it as a game. They see it as some strategy. They actually get joy out of the creating of their future, right? Where they want total control, and they see life as a chess game in many ways. So I think each of us are driven or motivated in a different way, but the ones that I see that go from building one business and being successful and going on to the next business it's a game. It's something they truly love playing and love getting better at with each business that they either start or they buy. It's a game to them, and they truly get joy and pleasure from it.
Yeah, now I have to redirect. That was such a great answer. I tell people, there's a lot of people that come to me and say, I have this idea for a business. What should I do? And I've created my own concepts and been successful with them over the years as well, besides the franchise world. And I tell everybody, if you have an idea that you think needs to be born, by all means do it. But most people, by the time they start flushing it out, they realize, maybe it doesn't really need to be born. maybe I didn't realize there's a lot more competition. Maybe I didn't realize what it was going to take. Maybe I didn't realize whatever. And that's the idea of a business plan. At some point, it hits you in the face that maybe this isn't a great idea. So that's where franchising certainly comes in. And we're the average person. This is why we say that anybody can do this. Because as long as you're matched up with we have all the tools thanks to you now, but we match up people to what is going to play to their strong suits, where they're going to be comfortable and where they're going to be happy. And at the end of the day, some people today, as you know, Rebecca, I talk to a lot of people. They're like, Lance, I just want to make money. I've worked too hard in my life. And I followed my passion, and that didn't exactly work. And I didn't make any money. And how can you be happy when you're not making any money? So tell me just where I can go to make money. I prefer not to work nights. I prefer not to work weekends. I said, look, I have a brand for everybody. So what do you say to all of that and how you can help?
I think not everyone is an idea person. I think we're all gifted and talented differently. So some of us are those true wild, crazy entrepreneurs that will come up with an idea and do whatever it takes to invent, create, fund, grow something. The other 95% of us are the support material to that. We can only have one, key player here, right? So franchising is perfect for that, where maybe what you're good at is marketing and sales or managing a team or taking care of the customer. Maybe you're great at replicating and scaling, which is great if you're going to go into franchising. Idea's already been invented. It's already been proven. Now you just scale it, you grow it, you build yourself an empire. So I don't think all of us are wired the same way. And I think we need to be okay with that. I think there has been, especially in the US, there has been incredible emphasis on entrepreneurship. That's how franchising is different, right? Entrepreneurship means you invent it, you create it, you put everything at stake to make that thing happen. Franchising is where you have someone coming alongside that's done the R&D, that's done the research, that's taken the risks, that's put the systems and processes in place so you can then take it and grow your own local business and scale it if you want.
Franchising is all about modeling success.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're in business for yourself and not by yourself. I say that often. I don't know who invented that expression, but it's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. But your assessment also helps because the one type of individual that doesn't fit in a franchise system is someone that wants too much control. Because at the end of the day, everybody knows McDonald's, so I use it often as an example. If you want to have green uniforms and serve hot dogs, you cannot be a McDonald's franchisee. However good you think you are, that's not going to happen. You have to trust the process. You have to follow the system. So,
and the assessment helps us determine that, right? are you an individual that's so innovative, so out of the box thinking that you enjoy creating? Then you're probably not wired to be a franchisee.
Right.
On the other hand, are you wired to be a single unit, multi-unit regional developer? If so, what organization is going to be a good fit? What's the culture of the organization you're going to fit in? What's the stage of growth that you need to be in? Do you want to have influence on the direction that franchisor goes?
Yeah.
Or do you simply want to embrace something and take it to the next level? So it's that kind of self-reflection, getting to know yourself, that the assessment helps with, you help the others with, to get to know who they are so they can find the right system for them. If you're a wild, crazy entrepreneur, like you were in the past and I am, then you may not be a great franchisee. But 95% of us are.
Clarity is currency. And I love to get people really crystal clear on what they actually want. People come to me and start rattling off categories of what they've looked at. I heard home care is hot. Well, it is. And I heard the restaurant business is great to grow and scale. Well, it can be for the right individual. But at the end of the day, what is your what? Let's determine the how afterwards and which category. But what is your what? What do you have? What's your investment level? What's your desire? You don't want to work nights and weekends. You want this, that. This is your investment level. We will find you your perfect franchise. So
yeah.
Give me your final thoughts on everything relating to this today. If someone's a potential new business owner or existing and is looking to do more things, what is your advice to them with all of your experience?
My advice is know thyself. Know thyself. That is the beginning of the rest of your story. You can write your story if you know the character that you play within that story. So know who you are, what your what is, and what your values are, and what your skills are, and what your desires are. Know yourself, and then get some help finding a business that reflects that mirrors that allows you to fully express who you are. Anything short of that is short-circuiting who you are. I want you to fully and completely express your God-given talents and the way that you are wired and everything that you bring to the table. The last thing you want is a business where you're uncomfortable and you're not able to do that. So know thyself, find a Lance to help you to look at these.
I am your Lance.
I am your Lance, yes.
Well, Rebecca, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. I would imagine we'd have to have a part 2 because we could do this for another hour.
Anytime, Lance.
You have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.